topic, of course. It comes in all shapes and sizes. You have the more formal things like action for climate empowerment here, with education being discussed in the COP. You have communications happening, in fact, all around you in this building, from David Attenborough, for example, speaking at the opening. I watched that on video, and that was very compelling, I must say. Although he did say that he was asking leaders to lead, and I did tweet, so are they going to do that? But it was great. So there are so many Youngo events as well, and Ringos, and all these other terminologies. Everybody actually is somewhere at some moment in the area of educating people, building awareness, in the hope that they will also build a response through that, so that we actually deal with this terror of what is climate change and an unsustainable development path that we're on. Let me just share one thing with you, which I sometimes feel when I'm in COPs that, we are actually talking to each other and that we're all convinced. So maybe we should all go and have a beer. But, there are a lot of people out there that aren't convinced about these things that we hold very dearly and feel very passionate about. How do we reach those people that aren't really sure about climate change, not sure about taking action, or are sort of hovering in one way or another? I was just the director of communications of a summit in San Francisco in September called the Global Climate Action Summit. This is meant to be the next launch pad to taking ambition to the next level over the next few years, through the UN Secretary General Summit next year in 2019, to the COP after that, and then 2020, when the world's emissions are supposed to peak. And we're supposed to be on a downward path from that point onwards. And I had the pleasure of going on an electric car journey across America, through states like Utah and Kansas and Indiana to New York, handing over the outcomes of the Global Climate Action Summit to the UN in New York. And I have to say, to stand in the car park at Walmart, hunting down some fizzy water and plugging this little electric Chevy Bolt into a charging point, and have people wander up to you saying, "What the hell are you doing?" In Kansas or whatever, and then you start talking about climate change in electric cars, and this person doesn't agree with you. But by the time you've had a good conversation and you're not yelling at each other, but just chatting as people that have just met in a car park, you start building bridges between two different worldviews. And I sometimes wonder whether, we can have thousands of reports, lots of brilliant assessments, but sometimes just talking to somebody in a car park, in Missouri, about electric vehicles and your view of the world and their view of the world, may be an area of communications we underestimate as a way of bringing this world together. So let's just leave it there for a second. Let me go over to my dear old friend Miro, who is really the circus master of this show, and the one that's really brought us all together. He's the executive director of the IAAI and founder of the multi-stakeholder partnership GLOTCHA. We've worked together on all kinds of communications initiatives with young people, and let's hear your perspective, Miro.
Thank you very much, Nick. Hello, everybody. So we are here at the press conference with the title, Building the Intellectual Infrastructure for Global Climate Action. And the context for this is that we are witnessing a paradigm shift, because for a very long time, many of us thought, okay, climate change, these big global issues, the national governments will handle it, the United Nations will handle it, but we have seen that it's not functioning. The emissions are growing, the CO2 concentrations are at unbelievable high levels, and the whole mechanism based only on national governments did not deliver the results that we would need to really effectively address the climate crisis that's in front of us. So since 2015, since the COP21, the Paris Agreement, the states, the national governments are recognizing that they need the help of everybody. They need youth, they need companies, universities, everybody, cities, of course, very important. And so it has been framed as the Global Climate Action Agenda. And there are huge potentials if all of us become active for the climate, if we create engagement opportunities for people for meaningful and rewarding climate action. But this is not coming from alone. We have the Action for Climate Empowerment program at the UNCC, UN Climate Change Secretariat, but as there are millions of people out there in the world who can contribute to climate change education, communication and outreach, we have to innovate the system. And for this, our organization is setting up the multi-stakeholder partnership GLOCHA. And this is working on creating the infrastructure, the ecosystem for multi-stakeholder engagement and especially also for youth empowerment for climate action. Through culture, through our global challenges, youth music contest, through technology, blockchain technology and youth global climate action app, which shall support everyday decisions of people towards low-carbon lifestyles, and through organization. On the one hand, a global level institutional innovation, a quasi-international organization, and on the local level, in every city, in every local community, there should be a global challenges center where young people can come, get access to the internet, access to knowledge, access to technology, and access to finance, so that really everybody can contribute to the global goals, to SDG 13, climate action. And today we are here to focus really what kind of knowledge we need to have really the right actions. And we have here leaders that will share with us their work. And one element that's also very important here is that our organization is working on resource mobilization for global climate action. We've had in San Francisco as an affiliate event to the Global Climate Action Summit, a meeting at the aquarium of the Bay with philanthropists, with resource holders, because there's so much wealth out there, social impact investors and others who have the possibilities but need entry points into supporting multi-stakeholder climate action, and we try to be the thematic leaders in this field, and that's also the background for today's action, and we are happy to be our friends here and to learn about the different constituencies and universities and business sector activities in this field.
Super, Miro. Thank you very much. And now over to Victor Josser. We know each other from the days when he spent a bit of time at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, so it was great to always keep bumping into him. He's a board member of Climate Mates International, and he's a focal point for the Education, Communications and Outreach Stakeholders Initiative, ECOS, among other things. So, Victor, over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. And we have heard that to reach that ambitious goal of 1.5, you really need a global bottom-up approach together with the top-down approach. And even here, within the UNFCCC process, the stakeholders who are working on these different areas, also when it comes to outreach to civil society, they all talk to each other. As you said, they always talk to each other, and there is not so much space for really getting all these actors together. And this is when it comes to this initiative, the ECOS, Education, Communication, and Outreach Stakeholder Community. And this stakeholder group was set up during the times of 2016, the Marrakesh COP, which was perhaps the time for new innovative approaches also within the UNFCCC process. And the aim is to get together all these relevant stakeholders who work on these matters of education, communication, and outreach into one space, and have this kind of capacity building and resource mobilization space. And here I mean NGOs who work on informal education and awareness raising, but also policymakers and people from ministries of education and ministries of environment working on civil society outreach. And during our morning meetings, which we gather here every day at the COPs and also at the intersessionals, we provide this space for these different actors to engage with each other. And for example, as said, I'm active with a youth lab, Think and Do Tank, and we do all kinds of innovative approaches to get this topic to young people. And we do this activity and are active also in my home country, in Hungary, but perhaps the national group, the ministry who is addressing climate change education doesn't know about these activities. And this is where ECOS can come into the picture of creating this connection between these civil actors and local implementers of climate change education and the national actors. These so-called ACE focal points, Action for Climate Empowerment focal point, which is ACE is a mechanism under the UNFCCC for these related matters. And as said, we gather now during the COP every morning at 10 a.m. And everyone is welcome, and we are happy to feature the initiatives, those initiatives we might not be heard or just might not be addressed at this huge circus, global circus that we have here. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Victor. So now we're going to go over to Greg Walker. He's a professor at Oregon State University and on the steering board of the Research and Independent MGOs. There we go. You see, I've only been out of the UNFCCC since March, and I'm already forgetting the acronyms. And he's going to give a presentation on the Universities Network for Climate Capacity Initiative. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you for including me in this press conference. I came to my first COP a decade ago. We can all think about our first COPs. Steep learning curve, an incredible amount of dynamic communication. But I was struck when I came to my first COP that the talk of communication was quite formal. A national communication plan, for example, or how a country might communicate its commitments. We've seen in the years since that communication, the dynamic nature of communication across scale and scope, recognized very differently now, and how, in fact, we need to communicate our concerns about climate change not just to each other, but to the broader community. In that way, I really work with 4 different organizations, 3 that are concrete and 1 that is more an idea, and I'll talk briefly about the idea. But the 3 that I work with, one, I'm a communication professor at Oregon State University, where I've been for over 3 decades, and I teach science communication, environmental communication, conflict management, and in all of those, my students hear about climate change. I'm here on behalf of Mediators Beyond Borders, which is a decade-old peace-building organization. We do conflict management projects around the world, and we're very concerned about our ability to manage climate change-related conflicts in a very constructive, collaborative way. I'm also here on behalf of the International Environmental Communication Association, which is an organization that in fact brings together scholars and practitioners, journalists, rhetoricians, a broad range of communicators from a number of different fields to focus again on environmental communication and certainly within that climate change communication. But most recently, I've been co-leading an idea, the development of a new universities network to deal with capacity building. And when I first got involved in the climate change negotiations as an observer, I was drawn to capacity building, particularly because I looked at Article 6 of the UNFCCC, which is now Action for Climate Empowerment. And to me, when we talk about participation, awareness, education, outreach, we're talking about building capacity. Maybe not a technical capacity, but certainly human capacities to enable to enact meaningful change. And so we're now working with people around the world from a variety of universities to put in place a new universities network on climate capacity. And we envision doing this in a way so that we can connect researchers with other researchers, but we can also connect researchers, students, students with students, universities with communities. In other words, we want to be able to improve the capacity of universities within countries around the world to serve the communities and certainly the NGOs, the government agencies, the fellow researchers in those countries. So instead of Oregon State University sending me to a country like Malawi to fly in, give a few ideas and fly out, let's improve the capacity of universities in Malawi. And as we do that, we'll improve capacities of universities in the US as well. So the Universities Network for Climate Capacity is the project at hand, and certainly very much interested in what's happening with communication issues, what's happening with ACE, and what's happening, of course, with ECOS. And lastly, I just want to commend my colleagues who have created ECOS. I think it serves a place that perhaps has not been served as well as we might like, and applaud your efforts, and I'm glad to be part of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. So over to Safran Mihna, who is a Youngo representative, among many other things. And yeah, have your perspective on this, this big challenge of communications.
Thanks, Nick, and nice to see you back here. And Youngo lies as official children and youth constituency to UNFCCC process under the UN Convention, and today we operate in nearly 200 plus member organizations from all around the world, and we also have nearly 4,000 plus members from all around the world as part of the constituency, and it's been there officially from 2011. And one of the major things that Youngo, we organize the Conference of Youth, which happens prior to the COP. Every year, it's 1 day from just before COP, we have the 3 days of Conference of Youth, where we build capacity of young people and train them towards the upcoming sessions and negotiations, especially related to negotiation, and also build them the capacity, and which we also had a representation. This year, around 100 plus nationalities were there, nearly 500 plus participants from all around the world was presented, and we also did a declaration on children and youth just transition. We did also a declaration on just transition as well, and we believe that young people are really important, and negotiations are negotiation that is happening right now should also make sure that inclusivity of young people in the process, and we look forward to see how the Paris rulebook could be adapted in Katowice. On just 2 hours ago, we had an open dialogue with the COP presidency, and the COP president was very much saying that Katowice is the last option for us to make Paris implement. So we as young people think that the implementation of Paris lies on and Katowice, and we urge all the negotiators and everyone who are here to take responsibility and make sure we have a substantive and inclusive rule book adopted here in Poland.
It's slightly.
It's okay. And Executive Vice President of Renewable Nations Institute, CEO of Byproducts Innovation Center, and COO of Vital Clean Tech Ventures. And she's going to talk about the topic of workforce development, the energy transition, and the green economy, and business modernization.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, so different hats that we wear, and I think all of us on this board here, this panel, we collaborate with the people around us who are capable to hold the truth that we find. So, for example, right now we're part of a collaboration, a stakeholder community. And we have a board member of the Ringo Group. So we form these structures. Why? Because we can, because we know how, because they're necessary. We don't have a lot of time to not do things carefully and quickly. So as Miro likes to say, the intellectual infrastructure includes this kind of innovation for business models, for collaboration models, for teamwork, essentially. And as Minister Siruriata mentioned today at the press conference with Greta Thunberg, we are all in this canoe together. So we have to upskill, particularly our social skills. It's not really the technology skills. That is getting funded. That is occurring. It's how do we roll out the technology? And from our point of view at Renewable Nations Institute and Vital Clean Tech Ventures, it's through projects. So we form sustainable energy project development in an incubator through a workforce development model. So bringing students into the framework of project development, which includes scope, schedule, budget. It requires an understanding generally of what technology does, but you are not inventing the technology. It is ready for prime time. It's TRL 9. And it's really about looking at the society at large, whether it's your community, your town, your state, or whether you're being cherry-picked to be given a beautiful, ready-made project site, understanding what the client needs, how you can best integrate into their work system so that it goes very smoothly, and understanding your schedule and your budget. It's applying steady business principles to the engineering theory that they're getting in schools now, but students are not getting the opportunity to actually build projects. So that's our focus. We also happen to partner with LACI, LA Clean Tech Incubator. Vital Clean Tech is a member of LACI, and Bioproducts Innovation Center is a nonprofit under LACI, and we convene meetings about the circular organics economy. So again, we do this because we can, we know people, we talk to other people, we build teamwork laterally across sectors, and we find that it strengthens actual practice. So, thank you.
Last but not least, we've got Alex Zikai Wang, who's with the Youth Think Center, and this is about mobilizing Chinese youth. And there are a lot of Chinese youth that need mobilizing. So how are you doing it?
All right. So thanks very much, Nick. So great to meet you here again. And also thanks very much, Miro and IAI to having this. So for Youth Think Center, we're also a youth lead think and do tank based in Beijing. So we mobilize young people to learn, advocate, and take actions on various topics such as sustainable development goals, climate change, and social business, and global citizenship. So here, there's one big program we're working with Professor Yunus for this year. It's called, we launched a global committee on social business, youth, and technology in New York for for General Assembly. So Professor Yunus is a Nobel Peace Laureate, and he will be our chair. And he said that there's one thing. He said that we have science fiction, and then scientists come to build that. And then probably we should have our social fiction, which describes the world we want, the future we want, the society we want. And then everyone can come to build that. I think for the ECOS and also IAI and also what Miro have done here is very important, is that we need to translate the scientists' all these reports to the general public. We need to make sure that climate change is not just for professional staff, scientists, all these fingers, all these charts on the slides, on the reports. We need to make sure that the people, the young people, everyone can feel it. And they feel the passionate, they feel they have the motivation to build that. I think this is the meaning of ECOS. This is the meaning that why we have all this music contest for climate change. So here's also some work we have. So we launched a program in China called Youth for Climate, which from name you can find that we want to make sure every young people can learn, advocate, and take actions on climate change very easily. No matter they are from big cities or they're from villages, we want to provide them all these online resources. We want to share all these cool reports, toolkits, and videos together with them. So for Youth for Climate, there are two things we want to work very hardly to make sure that we can engage everyone. Number one is that we work with the Chinese biggest online social platform called Weibo. So for this case, you can see that we are broadcasting and sending the Weibo to Chinese young communities. And we make a video every day. So which is very, like 1 minute video. We get all this important message. Like for example, Secretary General brief the Secretary General Climate Summit for next year. So we record that, and then we come out one video clip. And also we ask the young people here to write something to update all these young volunteers back to China. So, and also for yesterday, so if we can click. So for yesterday, so we are so lucky that Secretary General also wrote some message to our Chinese young people to motivate everyone to take actions on climate change. And my second point is that because today's today is International Volunteer Day. So I think we need to make sure that for climate education, we need to make sure that we have as many as possible to engage all these volunteers. For example, like in the past few years, we organized COP20, Chinese youth delegation to climate change conference every year. But we don't want that this delegation is just for 10 or 20 young people who are, very talented from China, were selective. We want to make sure that every Chinese young citizen, they can have the access to learn that what's going on in climate change conference. So this year, in just past 2 weeks, we have more than 30,000 volunteers covering more than 1,000 colleges and universities. And then they are, once we send something, once we have some toolkits, once we have some updates here, they will share all this information with their local community. I think this is very important that when we do climate education, we need to make sure that it's not for someone who got PhD degree or someone who are master on environment. It's something that basic knowledge for everyone, for every young people. So through all the efforts by our volunteers back to China, we have the opportunity to share our learning here back to Chinese young community. So I think thanks, because December 5th is International Volunteer Day, and thanks so much that all the volunteers working in China to help us to make sure every Chinese young people can have the opportunity to learn, advocate, and take actions on climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So as you can see, it's a huge topic, right? It stretches all around the world. It's happening at all different levels. What is communications? What is education? Who are we communicating to? Who are we educating? I think my feeling is that there are more people in the world today who are aware of something called climate change. They're aware that things are not going so right. But how do you actually translate that into action? In other words, people actually being motivated, not just being aware, but being motivated, whether it be challenging their cities to go further and faster, challenging their governments to go further and faster, challenging their companies to go further and faster, challenging their universities and their schools and whatever. It's also, in the developing world with an aging population and an aging population in China, it's also an issue for older people too. They need educating as well, quite frankly. And maybe they will become more motivated as well. And sometimes there are different entry points. I mean, climate change is a very difficult conversation to have with people that don't really know much about it. But sometimes you've got other entry points, like, health. And I think increasingly, certainly in the United States, it's seen by many campaigners that health is the entry point. I think increasing numbers of people around the world see health as the entry point. I think in China, it was the health issues in the cities that started getting people very motivated about wanting change. So, perhaps the WHO campaign, the World Health Organization with Breathe Life is some entry point as well. But there are many entry points. I think art and culture is also an entry point. I think that, the whole issue of how you change people's perceptions, how you excite people is very much through the lens of that. And on that happy note, I'm going to share you a video, which is a new song for the COP here in Katowice, written by, I have to say, it's actually written by my girlfriend. That's not the lady on the screen, but she's a lady called Bernadette Lehengst, who is a German pop singer, writer, who wrote the song for the opening of COP last year in Bonn called I'm an Island. She was commissioned to write this by an arts initiative called Save the World Festival. This is a film shot on the streets of Katowice, and it appeared as a master video on my phone in between Warsaw and Katowice. And this will be a song that we played at many gigs next week around the city. This is your sneak preview. See whether you like it. If we have some volume.
Since you took your life away, the sky is gray and full of desire. I need air to breathe, everywhere for you and me.
Good. Maybe sometimes you need a song.
And in this context, perhaps also an information, together with Nick, we have organized in 2015 the Global Challenges Youth Music Contest for COP21. It was a very successful initiative, and next week we are going to launch the 2019 edition of the Global Challenges Youth Music Contest together with Earth Day Network and other partners, so please stay tuned, and you can also look us up on Facebook. Glotcha Music is our Facebook page for the competition. Next week it will be launched, and congratulations for this wonderful music video clip.
Thank you very much, everybody.